So with this being Super Bowl weekend, I figured, what the hell, I might as well do a couple of video reports for you. But I got to be honest with you, I've had a migraine for the past 6 hours. I've taken the maximum allotment of every migraine relief medicine that I can, and nothing has helped. And about 18 inches away from me, there is a light shining in my face to illuminate me for this video report, and it's killing me. So if you think I normally talk fast during these videos, I'm going to motor through this baby. Listen, it's all about college basketball right now. What, you think I'm going to talk about the XFL? We will soon. Yes, you can make money in these obscure leagues, but hey, that's for another video when my head's not hurting. It's college basketball. You should have been betting and playing college basketball all these weeks. I told you you can make money in the non-conference portion of the season. We did. And now it's about college hoops, as we know, for the next 6 to 8 weeks. The key to winning in college basketball, and I've talked about this before many times over the years and even this season, but if you missed it, let me just tell you once again. You know, you start the season, there's 353 teams. If I'm doing a radio interview, if we're sitting in a restaurant at a bar and you want to talk college hoops, I can have a meaningful discussion probably with about 250 of those 353 teams with you about their personnel and their coaches. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to bet on them, and I don't want to bet on them. The key is narrowing down the field. At the beginning of the year, it's not like I start the season going, oh, I'm only going to bet the ACC, I'm only going to bet the SEC. No, it's like a process. It's a process of elimination. And suddenly you find yourself going back to certain conferences, going back to certain teams. And you narrow that big field down to this small little bucket of teams, a select few conferences or leagues. And that's the key. So if you're a customer of mine, you've seen repeatedly, I go back to the Big 10. I go back to the Big 12. I love the Horizon League. I'll go out occasionally and play in the West Coast Conference in games involving Gonzaga or BYU. I'll dip my toes into the Mountain West Conference. Those are my go-to teams and conferences. Now, the Big Ten absolutely has made me more money this year than any other conference. I can't tell you the last time I focused on the Big Ten and made money in that conference. Can't tell you. It's been years. But this year, it's just, that's the way the cookies have crumbled. And what happens is when you focus on a particular conference or particular league and those teams in them, you get that familiarity. And you keep going back to the well, and whether it's Iowa, whether it's Michigan, whether it's Michigan State, for example, you follow one team, you see the opponent that night, well then suddenly you're building a little bit of a library of information about all the teams in the conference. And that becomes one of your go-to leagues. Now, when conference play starts here in, 4 or 5 weeks, that doesn't mean suddenly you go jump to the Sun Belt. You go jump to the Pac-12. If you haven't dipped your toes in those conferences all season, you don't start betting them then. And when the big dance starts, if you haven't played Murray State all season long, you don't start playing Murray State games then. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to hold yourself back, and you've got to keep going to that same well you have dipped your toes in all season long. You can't be greedy. That's really the key to betting in college basketball. I've spoken. Let's move forward. Let's talk about one of those conferences I've done very well in. One of them happens to be the Big 12, and a team that I just used as another top-rated 15-time best bet a couple nights ago, Baylor, when they were at Iowa State. Baylor today, back home, 12.5-point favorite, 12 in some places against TCU. I like Baylor in this spot. They're 3-0 in Big 12 home games this season, beating Texas by 15, Iowa State by 13, Oklahoma by 4 in their last home game in Waco. This is a team, Baylor, that has won 17 straight games since losing their second game of the season in Alaska, blowing a big lead and losing to Washington. They're 9-0 at home. And, of course, today they can set a new program record for consecutive wins. Listen, this is a Baylor team that just plays great defense. 58.3 points per game yield on 38.2% field goal defense. Offensively, this is not a great team, only averaging a little over 49 points a game during their 7-0 conference start. But this is all about going against TCU as well. A TCU team that's coming off a 1-point home loss to Texas, a team that has lost 4 of its last 5 games overall, a team that lost its last road game in conference play, 78-67. I'm sorry, backtrack. A team that's lost its last road game, which was in the SEC Big 12 Challenge last Saturday at Arkansas, 78-67. A team that's lost its last 2 Big 12 road games quite handily, in fact, by 20 points at Oklahoma and by an even bigger margin, 81-49 at West Virginia. Again, I think that you lay the 12.5 to 12 points with Baylor and ride the Bears in this one. Another game and another team that has been very good to me would be West Virginia, -12 and big-time revenge against Kansas State. The first time these two met, West Virginia undoubtedly played its worst game of the season. Kansas State beat them up. It was back on my birthday, in fact, January 18th. Beat them up 84-68 in Manhattan. The very next game, I took West Virginia at home, and they destroyed, I think it was Missouri, 74-51. Well, now West Virginia is coming off its second worst game of the season in terms of a defensive effort, coming off a loss at Texas Tech, a game in where the Mountaineers just, I don't know what the hell happened to them. This is a Mountaineers team that was only allowing opponents to average about 37% from the field, but in that 89-81 loss to Texas Tech, although their defense forced 22 turnovers, they allowed the Red Raiders to hit 54.3% of their shots, and even worse, defending on the three-point line, the Red Raiders hit 64.7% of their threes. And Texas Tech, guys, not a great offensive team. So, same situation. Just after West Virginia got blown out at Kansas State, they came back home. They beat the hell out of Missouri. Then they beat the hell out of Texas in their next home game. This is a Mountaineers team that is 10-0 at home this year. Well, now, added fuel to the fire, this is a revenge situation for them against a Kansas State team that is 1-4 straight up on the road, 0-3 on the conference highway, and when you throw in, they're also 0-3 in neutral site games this season. This is a team that's 1-7 overall when they're playing outside of Manhattan, Kansas. Great spot, I think, to take. Bob Huggins' team to rebound here today, get their defensive mojo back, and to easily cover this 12-point spread today. The other game is a team that from the Big Ten, which, listen, in the Big Ten this season, you play the home teams. You make a lot of money. It's been that simple. Really. Look at the home teams, with the exception of like Northwestern and Nebraska. They have just been money in the bank. But today, I think it's worth taking a shot with Michigan State. But everybody else has thought the same thing. And that's why this line in the Michigan State game has moved from 4 up to 5.5 to 6 points at Wisconsin. And there's a number of mitigating circumstances as well. Wisconsin's coming off a 68-62 loss at Iowa on Monday, and that was a game where they blew a 12-point lead in the final 7 minutes. And of course, they lost their previous game 70-51 at Purdue. And after that Iowa game, a game in which their second leading scorer, who happened to be their leading scorer in conference game, their starting shooting guard, Kobe King, did not play. Well, after that game, the real news came out that he had decided that he was leaving the team. Well, also in that Iowa game, their starting point guard, Brad Davidson, I don't know if you saw the video, you could look it up if you Google his name, cheap shot where he kicked one of the Iowa players in the you-know-what. So he got suspended after getting the flagrant foul in that contest, so he's out. So this is a Wisconsin team that's going to be now, a week later, without its starting backcourt here for this game. 2 guys that averaged about, I want to say about 18 points a game in conference play. But the key player is Kobe King, minus him. They started a freshman, Tyler Wall, against Iowa the other night. He had 4 points and 7 rebounds in 26 minutes. Not exactly what King was providing. He was averaging almost 13 points a game in conference play. Michigan State won the first meeting 67-55 at home on January 17th. And that was a game where Michigan State's top player, Cassius Winston, was 3 for 12 from the field and finished with just 6 points. That's well under the 18-point per game average that he's had this season. That was a game in which Wisconsin shot just 35.6% from the field, went 4 for 19 on three-pointers. Now, granted, that was a game in East Lansing. This game, of course, is back on Wisconsin's home floor. Wisconsin is not a place that I would say is great for home atmosphere at the Kohl Center. And especially with what's going on with the Badgers right now, I think that Michigan State can win this game. I think Michigan State has the talent to cover this spread. The only caveat here, and why me, a guy who has made a lot of money in Michigan State, in the Big Ten this season, is not going on Michigan State, why I'm not on the Spartans today, it's this. This is the same Michigan State team that less than a month ago went to Purdue and got hammered by an average Boilermakers team by 29 points in West Lafayette, Indiana. Yeah, they lost by 29 points. So again, just something to be concerned about. So, of the 3 plays today, which ones do I like the most? Well, obviously, Michigan State's going to be at the bottom of that rung. And the 2 that I like the most, I'm going to go back to my go-to conference there again. I like at the top tier, equally, Baylor and West Virginia, and then Michigan State right underneath there. That's it, guys, and we'll talk to you tomorrow when, I don't know, they got this little football game. It's just the precursor to the XFL. That's what we're really all looking forward to here in a couple of weeks anyway. Talk to you then. Good luck, everybody.